Coming up, Tzu Chi volunteers in Malaysia deliver relief supplies to those affected by the recent flood. Tzu Chi volunteers in China organize winter relief distributions in Fujian and Shanxi Provinces. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Helen Liao. Thank you for joining us. Heavy seasonal rainfall since mid-December has caused the worst flooding in decades in Malaysia, with floodwaters reaching as high as 3 meters in Kelantan state. Now that the waters have begun to subside, Tzu Chi volunteers of the Kuala Lumpur and Selangor chapter immediately mobilized relief supplies to tend to the flood victims' needs.
Weeks of heavy monsoon rain in Malaysia have sparked floods in Kelantan, the worst the country has seen in a decade. The worsening flood situation has triggered panic among local residents as they scramble to withdraw money at nearby ATMs. Hotels in the district were also fully occupied by flood victims unwilling to stay at evacuation centres.
The price doesn't matter. Even if there's no water or electricity, as long as we have a bed, it's okay.
Residents flocked to supermarkets to stock up on food. Within a matter of minutes, the shelves were almost empty.
There isn't much food left on the shelves. They're almost empty.
Amid the anxiety and panic, kind-hearted people like Nasri delivered aid to help the flood victims.
This is for the people at the evacuation center.
Tzu Chi volunteers also mobilized to purchase items for a distribution, and the store owner was fully supportive of their efforts.
I
know this food is going to people who need it most. People are anxious they won't get any food.
Wang Kangwei, whose family was spared from harm, immediately joined volunteers in the rescue efforts.
I'm okay, although I feel a little tired. However, I'm glad to help others.
Chou Qingxu decided to help others in spite of his own plight. Facing the worst flood the country has seen in 30 years, volunteers took the opportunity to invite local residents to lend a hand.
Are you willing to join us?
Volunteer Huang Xinhua even brought his children to help out.
Do our best to help as far as we can.
Although many of those currently staying at the evacuation center know about Tzu Chi, however, we want to give them the opportunity to help their own community members.
During times of adversity, love is what brings people through the most challenging and difficult traumas. Now that the waters have subsided, all that remains is debris and litter.
We tied this hose pipe around our waists and climbed down one by one. At the time, floodwaters gushed through the street, and soon the water level was rising. There wasn't even enough time for us to pack before we were forced to leave.
Parts of Guangmasang were heavily flooded since December 21st, with water levels reaching 3 meters high in the city center. Roads have been cut off by floodwaters and residents have been left without water and electricity.
It was really bad. The cupboards in the kitchen, the fridge, everything fell over.
As soon as the waters began to recede, volunteers from the Tzu Chi Kuala Lumpur and Selangor chapter quickly mobilized to deliver their care and blessings to residents in Guangmasang.
The villagers have been without water and electricity this entire week. The entire city center and houses in the village were completely engulfed.
The volunteers' presence has eased the pain and brought comfort to the 600 families affected by the flood.
Malaysia is battling some of the worst floods in decades along its east coast in the wake of the northeast monsoon season. And in Kelantan, one of the worst-hit districts, Burmese refugee families were left stranded in their homes without food and water for 2 days. To help, the UNHCR branch office in Malaysia turned to Tzu Chi volunteers for help.
Torrential northeast monsoon rains have caused massive flooding along the east coast of Malaysia, leaving boats as the only mode of transportation. Flooding in Kelantan, one of the worst-hit districts, reached one-story high, and some Burmese families were left trapped in their homes.
Some Burmese refugees in Kelantan have been trapped in their homes. We think it is because they don't have boats, so we rented 3 small boats and brought them to safety. On Christmas Day, 10 Tzu Chi volunteers from Kelantan arrived in Kelantan to rescue these refugees from harm. We also arranged for transport to pick them up and take them to the temporary shelters. They told us they were stranded for 2 days without any food or water. Apart from organizing hot meals, volunteers also settled these refugees at the government-run temporary shelters. As the rain has yet to stop, Tzu Chi volunteers' care will also not falter. Nambong is an Indonesian province at the southern tip of the island of Sumatra. Due to the area's poor economy and lack of medical resources, residents who develop cataract or retinal detachment can only watch as their vision deteriorates. Thankfully, Tima arrived to host a free clinic in mid-December.
For the 3rd time, the Lambang Police Department has teamed up with Tzu Chi to hold a free clinic for the impoverished citizens of this province.
This is a wonderful event. Not only is it a free clinic, it also gives us a chance to serve the public, whether it's local residents or Chinese descendants. We are all one family here.
According to the local health bureau, last year alone, 5,369 residents of this poor Indonesian province suffer from cataract or retinal detachment. Asman, who rides a rickshaw for a living, is one such example, but finally got his problem solved at the Tzu Chi clinic.
I have had the problem for about 3 years, but I paid it no mind. However, things have gotten worse lately. I've never had the problem treated before. I could only buy something over the counter, as I had no money. I'm really happy for this free clinic.
Taylor Wawang, who suffered from cataracts, can now work again thanks to the clinic.
I'm very happy as I've waited for this moment for a long time. We can only look to the free clinic because we really are not well off.
Volunteers on hand also gain something through their service, such as Hong Guang Tian, who maintains the venue.
Seize every moment to give and practice charity. That's what I've kept close to my heart. We shouldn't let a moment be wasted. If something needs to be tidied up, we need to do it right away. Don't wait.
Thanks to the clinic, 156 residents can see once more, while Tzu Chi volunteers are further inspired to continue on the Bodhisattva path.
Immunization through vaccination helps fight common infectious diseases and reduce the medical expenses needed to care for the sufferers of these diseases. We now help you understand the importance of getting vaccinated and introduce Taiwan's state-of-the-art vaccine research center in Zhunan, Miaoli. Newborns' immune systems are not adequate to fight against the various infectious diseases of the world, and thus need a series of immunization shots to ensure they are protected.
Within 24 hours after a child is born, we will have to administer the first shot of hepatitis B vaccine. Also, according to government regulations, 1 year before entering elementary school, a child also needs a 4-in-1 vaccine. Later, there will be encephalitis, measles, and mumps vaccinations as well. The general consensus among the medical community is that vaccinations definitely do more good than harm. Though many shots need to be paid out of pocket, in the long run they help reduce manpower costs and medical care costs in caring for a sick child.
In the early years when immunization was not available, many children either died from common infectious diseases such as diphtheria or polio, or were handicapped for life as a result. Only when vaccines were developed did such tragedies begin to disappear. In Taiwan, BCG vaccines for preventing tuberculosis are mainly produced at the Vaccine R&D Center of the National Health Research Institute in Zhunan, Miaoli. Since the establishment of the center in 2003, it has strived to develop new vaccines and will soon replace the Quenyang vaccine plant.
Besides producing the BCG vaccine, we also make snake antivenoms here, so that's our basic responsibility. But if there's an immediate need of a new vaccine, we will also have to make that happen by doing whatever it takes to come up with a new cure in order to protect the health of our citizens in the shortest amount of time.
In his earlier years, Mr. Huang worked in a major US pharmaceutical company for more than 2 decades and is currently a pioneer in biotechnology in Taiwan. He founded the first mid-sized biopharmaceutical plant that is capable of protein drug development in Taiwan and is now devoting his expertise to the country.
When it comes to emergency vaccine development, you come across a lot of limitations, such as finance and time. The pressure is tremendous, but you just have to get it done.
At the end of 2006, in response to the avian flu outbreak, the center completed the first batch of preliminary H5N1 vaccine for human use, which has proved to be effective in animal trials and has grabbed the attention of the international community. Not only is this the first vaccine developed by Taiwan, it is also the second avian flu vaccine developed in the world using cell culture technology to enter clinical trials. Currently, scientists all around the world are focusing their efforts on curing more deadly diseases such as AIDS and Ebola, and vaccination and immunotherapy are at the focus of such efforts. Perhaps soon, all it will take is one shot and people will be saved from such deadly diseases.
Tzu Chi Foundation's winter relief distributions in China are currently still ongoing. Recently, volunteers from various areas in the country organized aid distribution in Kelantan County, Shanxi Province. But first, we go to Fujian Province, where Tzu Chi volunteers deliver much-needed aid to 1,663 needy families. Around 6:30 in the morning, Tzu Chi volunteers are here in Maja Township, Quanzhou City, to deliver aid to needy residents. As soon as the volunteers arrive at the village, they quickly split into 19 teams.
The materials provided by us will run out one day, but our care for you will continue on.
Since 2009, Tzu Chi volunteers have been holding winter relief distributions in Quanzhou City. This year, however, the volunteers decided to deliver relief items personally to residents' doorstep. Among the recipients is Master Deyun, who still wears the clothing given by the volunteers last year. Besides daily necessities and rice, volunteers also give each family handwritten spring couplets.
We need to live a frugal lifestyle. If you have time, you need to clean up your surroundings. We need to be content and do good deeds.
Meanwhile, in Anhai City, Tzu Chi volunteers organized a winter relief distribution at the gymnasium of the Anhai Vocational School, providing much-needed aid to 747 underprivileged families.
My grandparents don't live around here. My family and I visit them once a year. These seniors remind me of my grandparents, and I feel great being able to help.
During the distribution, Tzu Chi volunteers greet each senior with a smile and offer words of encouragement.
This grandma was very sad, but she feels much better after talking to us. Now she has regained her smile, so I think what we are doing is very meaningful.
I want to seize every chance to give. I'm very happy because I can create a good connection with residents here.
With Tzu Chi's relief items in hand, this winter will surely be warmer for the residents here in Anhai City. These two seemingly unrelated tasks are actually closely connected.
We'll use soil instead of water. These are not flushing toilets, so we can't flush them with water. All the human waste is just piled up here, so it is hard for us to clean. First, we'll use a wooden stick to push all the waste down the hole. Next, we'll put soil on top to make this place cleaner.
Through cleaning the washroom, Tzu Chi volunteers have learned to be more humble and let go of any arrogance.
A while ago, I joined the home visitations with Tzu Chi brothers and sisters and saw that many residents were living in hardship. I remembered Sister Yufen asked me to clean the washroom, but I wasn't willing to do so then. I felt it was a task that I could not do. However, this time, I have learned to let go of my pride. I want to change for the better, so I asked my fellow counterparts to let me join them on their next home visitation.
In spite of the cold weather and laborious duties, with a giving heart, Tzu Chi volunteers conduct the relief distribution with smiles on their faces. Besides handing out relief items, the volunteers also thoughtfully organize a free clinic to safeguard the residents' health. Thanks to Tzu Chi, more than 100 residents in Longchi village can finally welcome in the new year with happiness and good health. Following the Southeast Asian tsunami in 2004, Tzu Chi was the first NGO to bring assistance to the hard-hit Aceh city in Indonesia. On December 26, in a ceremony marking 10 years since the disaster, a plaque was offered to Tzu Chi to thank and honor the organization for its help over the past decade.
A city ruined, a populace scattered, Tzu Chi volunteer Hong Jian remembers the devastation that was Aceh 10 years ago.
Everyone was filled with fear. We were helping one woman who had fainted, as she had not had food or water in 3 days.
Part of a medical mission to bring supplies to the disaster area, with transportation links and communication lines down, it took Hong Jian's team 3 days of hard traveling to make the trip from Jakarta to Aceh.
In the end, we decided to rent a plane to transport the medicine and blankets, as well as 8 or 9 volunteers and doctors. We rented a propeller plane. At the beginning, I was afraid of the possible dangers.
As the first NGO on the ground in the days after the disaster, Tzu Chi wasted no time in setting up a medical station and distributing supplies.
The volunteers and doctors drove to various medical stations. We divided the various areas between us.
In addition to free clinics and aid distributions, Tzu Chi would later go on to build over 1,000 DaAi homes and 9 schools in the area, greatly helping the region in its rebuilding efforts. Now 10 years on, in a solemn ceremony in Jakarta to mark the day of the tsunami, Tzu Chi was recognized by the foundation of Taman Iskandar Muda for its continued help over the years.
The Tzu Chi Foundation played a very important role, and they carried out that role very well. It was one of the most effective NGOs to help residents following the tsunami.
Thanks to organizations like Tzu Chi, now 10 years on, Aceh is more vibrant than ever.
As December 26 marks 10 years since the 2004 Southeast Asian tsunami, we continue with our reports on Tzu Chi's efforts in the wake of the disaster, with a look at how the NGO responded in Aceh, Indonesia, and Hambantota, Sri Lanka, which were among the hardest hit areas at the time.
years ago, a 9.0 magnitude earthquake triggered an enormous tsunami in the Indian Ocean that devastated 13 countries. Following in its wake was Tzu Chi, whose footsteps of love were felt in Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and Thailand. In Aceh, Indonesia, an area that suffered the heaviest damage and casualties, volunteers overcame all hardships, and 2 days following the disaster were already on the ground helping victims. For the next few months, Tzu Chi held countless medical clinics, aid distributions, as well as worked to find temporary housing and water supply for the survivors. Tzu Chi later built 3 DaAi villages, complete with homes, schools, clinics, and community centers.
I'm so happy for my new home and new family. Life here is good. I have what I need, and that is enough.
Next to Indonesia, Sri Lanka was the hardest hit by the tsunami. Here also, Tzu Chi quickly worked to deliver rice, aid supplies, as well as set up temporary housing and medical clinics. Later in the southern city of Hambantota, Tzu Chi built an initial 649 DaAi homes as part of a community that would later hold thousands more. Such love was felt deeply by residents and quickly reciprocated.
Tzu Chi means my family. They're my brothers and sisters stay here, and I came every day my home.
Now 10 years on, Tzu Chi's presence in Indonesia's Aceh and Sri Lanka's Hambantota continues unabated.
Many poor people got the benefit, and especially the recipients are really happy. You can see from their eyes.
Recently, Dharma Master Deyun from the Hualien Sebo visited a few senior Tzu Chi volunteers in the Taichung area to bring blessings from Master Deyun. Dharma Master Deyun reminded these bodhisattvas to take care of their health, as having a healthy body is the only way to continue on the Tzu Chi path.
On a cold winter's day, a visit from Sebo Dharma Master Deyun warms the heart of these senior Tzu Chi volunteers who have gathered at Jin Su Juan's home.
Oh, you went back to full comforters. When do you want to come back and help again?
Though young at heart, these bodhisattvas' bodies are not what they used to be. Thus, Dharma Master Deyun reminds each one to take care of themselves.
Take care of your health. Only do as much as you are able to. Thank you for your efforts.
Before leaving, the Dharma Master gives everyone a parting gift filled with blessings.
This is an apple charm, so blessings can follow you home.
The next stop is to visit 90-year-old volunteer Xiao Liang Rui at a nursing home.
Amitofo, your hands are cold. Are you wearing enough?
As Dharma Master Deyun visits senior Tzu Chi volunteers, she asks that each take care of their health and spirits and continue walking the Tzu Chi path.
We go back to Malaysia at the end of the show, where 400 volunteers traveled to areas devastated by the recent flood with relief items and consolation cash. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for watching DaAi Headlines. Goodbye.